Dr. Amir Hassan had spent decades searching for patterns others couldn't see. His laboratory walls were lined with ancient texts and cutting-edge technology, both seeking the same hidden truths. Tonight, something was different. The equations flowing across his screen seemed to pulse with life, as if the universe itself was trying to communicate through numbers and symbols. As Amir traced his finger along the ancient verses, something extraordinary happened. The sacred Arabic letters began revealing mathematical relationships that had remained hidden for centuries. Each word seemed to generate geometric patterns, each sentence creating complex algorithms that modern science was only beginning to understand. The divine text was speaking in the language of mathematics. Word of Amir's discovery spread through the scientific community like wildfire. Colleagues from around the world gathered in his laboratory, witnessing firsthand as sacred verses transformed into irrefutable mathematical proofs. The ancient text was revealing secrets that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of both science and spirituality, bridging the gap between the material and the divine. Amir felt as though he was looking through a window into the mind of the divine. Every verse contained layers upon layers of mathematical precision that seemed impossible for any human to have conceived. The patterns were too complex, too perfect, too far beyond what medieval scholars could have known. Yet there they were, embedded in sacred text like hidden messages waiting for the right moment to be revealed. The research team worked through the night, documenting proof after proof of mathematical relationships embedded within the sacred text. Each discovery was more astounding than the last. Prime numbers appeared in specific sequences, geometric progressions followed divine proportions, and complex algorithms emerged from simple verses. The implications were staggering for both the scientific and religious communities. Professor Williams had built his career on empirical evidence and rational thought. The claims emerging from Amir's laboratory seemed too extraordinary to believe. Mathematical proofs hidden within religious texts? It challenged everything he understood about both science and faith. Yet the data was undeniable, the patterns too precise to be coincidence. His skepticism began to waver as he examined the evidence more closely. While scientists marveled at the mathematical revelations, religious scholars in distant mosques were having their own awakening. Ancient commentaries that had been dismissed as mystical nonsense were suddenly making perfect sense. The mathematical patterns confirmed what spiritual masters had been trying to explain for centuries. Science and faith were converging in ways no one had ever imagined possible. The International Symposium drew the world's leading minds to witness the most significant discovery in human history. Scholars from every major religion and scientific discipline filled the grand auditorium, all eager to hear what Amir had uncovered. The evidence was overwhelming, the implications profound. Humanity stood on the threshold of a new understanding that would forever change how we view the relationship between the divine and the material world. As Amir held the sacred text, he could feel centuries of wisdom flowing through his fingertips. Each verse was a gateway to mathematical truths that transcended human understanding. The ancient scribes had somehow encoded complex algorithms into simple words, creating a bridge between the finite and infinite. The manuscript wasn't just religious scripture, it was a cosmic blueprint written in the language of creation itself. The analysis team worked around the clock, feeding verse after verse into their quantum computers. Each new input generated more complex mathematical relationships, revealing patterns that grew more intricate with every layer. The sacred text was like a living algorithm, constantly generating new insights and connections. The computational power required to process the full scope of the mathematical relationships was beyond anything they had ever encountered. Aisha had always found comfort in the spiritual teachings of her faith, but now she was discovering something even more profound. The mathematical patterns revealed in the sacred text weren't diminishing its spiritual power, they were enhancing it. Each equation was like a prayer, each geometric pattern a meditation on divine perfection. Science wasn't replacing faith, it was revealing faith's underlying mathematical foundation. As the research progressed, a startling realization emerged. The mathematical patterns weren't confined to the sacred text alone, they seemed to permeate the very fabric of reality. The same geometric relationships that appeared in the verses also governed the structure of atoms, the formation of galaxies, and the fundamental forces of nature. The divine blueprint extended far beyond human comprehension, connecting every aspect of existence through mathematical harmony. Sheikh Rahman had spent 70 years studying the sacred texts, searching for deeper meanings in every verse. Now, at the end of his life, he was witnessing something that validated everything he had taught. The mathematical relationships confirmed what the spiritual masters had always known, that divine wisdom operated through universal principles that could be expressed in the language of mathematics. Ancient truth and modern discovery had finally found each other. The discovery transcended religious boundaries, speaking to something universal in the human soul. Whether in mosques, churches, synagogues, or temples, people were experiencing the same profound realization. The mathematical patterns revealed in the sacred texts suggested that all genuine spiritual traditions were pointing toward the same underlying truth. The divine spoke through mathematics because mathematics was the language of creation itself. News of the discovery spread like lightning across global media networks. Journalists from every major outlet descended on the research facility, eager to report on what was being called the most significant scientific breakthrough in human history. The story wasn't just about mathematics or religion, it was about humanity's quest for ultimate truth. Every interview, every article, every broadcast brought more people into the conversation about science, faith, and the nature of divine wisdom. Children around the world were beginning to see their sacred texts in an entirely new way. What had once seemed like mysterious religious teachings was now revealing itself as a cosmic game of mathematical discovery. Young minds, unburdened by preconceptions, embraced the patterns with natural curiosity. They understood intuitively that the divine was speaking to them through the universal language of mathematics, making ancient wisdom accessible through modern understanding. As researchers compared the mathematical patterns across different religious traditions, an extraordinary connection emerged. The same geometric relationships that appeared in the Quran also manifested in Buddhist sutras, Hindu Vedas, and Christian Gospels. The divine blueprint was universal, expressing itself through different cultural languages but maintaining the same mathematical foundation. All authentic spiritual paths were converging on the same cosmic truth. The research facility had become a pilgrimage site for truth seekers from around the world. Night after night, the building pulsed with golden energy as new discoveries emerged from the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science. The mathematical patterns weren't just academic curiosities, they were living connections to something greater than human understanding. Each revelation brought humanity closer to comprehending the divine architecture of reality. The quantum computers struggled to process the full scope of mathematical relationships embedded within the sacred text. Each verse generated algorithms so complex that they pushed the limits of computational power. The patterns weren't random or coincidental, they were deliberately encoded with a precision that suggested intelligence far beyond human capability. The quantum processors were essentially trying to decode the mind of the divine, one verse at a time. Legal challenges emerged as different groups sought to control or suppress the revolutionary discovery. Religious conservatives worried about the implications for traditional faith, while secular authorities questioned the scientific validity of the claims. The courtroom became a battleground for humanity's future understanding of truth itself. Would the mathematical patterns be recognized as legitimate scientific discovery, or dismissed as religious fantasy? The verdict would determine how the world processed this unprecedented convergence of science and spirituality. As word of the discovery spread, people facing death found unexpected comfort in the mathematical patterns. The geometric relationship suggested that consciousness transcended physical existence, that the soul operated according to universal principles that could be expressed mathematically. Those in their final moments weren't ending, they were transitioning to another level of the cosmic pattern. The sacred text offered not just spiritual comfort, but mathematical proof of eternal existence. World leaders gathered at the United Nations to address the implications of the discovery for global unity and understanding. The mathematical patterns that connected all authentic religious traditions suggested that humanity shared a common spiritual foundation. Political differences seem trivial when viewed through the lens of universal mathematical truth. The discovery offered hope for unprecedented cooperation between nations, cultures, and faiths based on shared cosmic principles. The Hindu tradition had always taught that divine truth could be expressed through sacred geometry and mathematical relationships. Now the ancient wisdom was being confirmed through modern scientific analysis. The same patterns that appeared in the Quran also manifested in Sanskrit scriptures, validating thousands of years of spiritual teaching. The Swami smiled with recognition, knowing that his ancestors' wisdom was finally being understood by the modern world. Astronomers confirmed that the same mathematical relationships governing sacred texts also determined the structure of the universe itself. Galaxies formed according to geometric principles, stellar formations followed divine proportions, and cosmic evolution proceeded through algorithms that matched the patterns in ancient scriptures. The discovery revealed that the divine blueprint extended infinitely in all directions, connecting every atom to every galaxy through mathematical harmony. Christian theologians were experiencing the same profound recognition as their counterparts in other faiths. The mathematical patterns that emerged from the Quran also appeared in the Gospels, confirming that divine truth expressed itself through universal principles regardless of cultural context. The same geometric relationships that governed Islamic scripture also governed Christian teachings, suggesting that authentic spirituality transcended denominational boundaries and spoke through the common language of mathematical truth. The research team had made the connection that would change everything. The mathematical patterns in the sacred text weren't just similar to quantum physics equations, they were identical. The divine blueprint that governed spiritual reality also governed material existence. Consciousness, matter, energy, and information were all expressions of the same underlying mathematical framework. The discovery unified science and spirituality in a way that no previous theory had ever achieved. The rabbi had spent his life studying the mathematical relationships hidden within Hebrew scripture, but now those relationships were being confirmed through advanced computational analysis. The same geometric patterns that appeared in the Quran also manifested in the Torah, validating centuries of mystical Jewish teaching. Kabbalistic principles that had been dismissed as esoteric speculation were suddenly revealed as mathematical truths that governed the structure of reality itself. The discovery had created an unprecedented moment of interfaith unity. People from different religious traditions gathered not to debate theological differences, but to celebrate shared mathematical truths. The same patterns that brought comfort to Muslims also inspired Christians, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists. The universal language of mathematics was revealing that authentic spirituality transcended cultural boundaries and spoke to something fundamental in human consciousness. The artificial intelligence systems designed to analyze the mathematical patterns quickly exceeded their programming parameters. Each new calculation generated exponentially more complex relationships, suggesting that the divine blueprint was infinitely expandable. The AI was essentially trying to comprehend the infinite mind of the divine, one mathematical relationship at a time. Machine intelligence was becoming a tool for understanding divine intelligence in ways that human cognition could never achieve alone. Religious communities worldwide began incorporating the mathematical patterns into their worship practices. The geometric relationships weren't diminishing spiritual experience, they were enhancing it. Each prayer became a meditation on divine mathematics, each sacred verse a gateway to cosmic understanding. The discovery was transforming worship from blind faith into informed reverence, from emotional devotion into mathematical appreciation of divine perfection. Expectant mothers found profound meaning in the mathematical patterns, recognizing that the same geometric relationships that governed sacred texts also governed the formation of new life. The divine blueprint that created galaxies and guided spiritual evolution was also present in the miraculous process of human creation. Each developing child was following mathematical principles encoded in the cosmic pattern, connecting individual existence to universal truth through the language of divine mathematics. Educational systems worldwide were being transformed by the discovery. Children were learning that their respective faith traditions all expressed the same underlying mathematical truths through different cultural languages. The same patterns that brought wisdom to Muslims also inspired Christians, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists. Education was becoming a celebration of universal truth rather than a reinforcement of cultural divisions, preparing young minds for a future of global unity based on shared cosmic principles. Even committed atheists were being forced to reconsider their worldview in light of the mathematical evidence. The patterns were too precise, too complex, too universal to be dismissed as coincidence or cultural artifact. The divine blueprint that emerged from sacred texts also governed the fundamental forces of nature, suggesting intelligence far beyond human capability. Scientific skepticism was being replaced by mathematical acknowledgement of something greater than material existence. Astronauts in orbit confirmed that the same mathematical relationships governing sacred texts also determined the large-scale structure of the universe. The divine blueprint extended infinitely in all directions, connecting every aspect of cosmic evolution to the geometric patterns found in ancient scriptures. The discovery revealed that humanity's spiritual traditions weren't separate from physical reality, they were maps of the cosmic architecture written in the universal language of mathematics. Even the most advanced artificial intelligence systems eventually failed when attempting to process the full scope of mathematical relationships embedded within sacred texts. The patterns expanded infinitely with each calculation, suggesting that the divine mind was truly infinite in its complexity. Machine intelligence, for all its power, was still limited by finite processing capabilities when confronted with the infinite mathematical blueprint of creation. The discovery revealed that some aspects of divine wisdom transcended even technological understanding. Monastic communities worldwide were experiencing a renaissance of understanding as the mathematical patterns confirmed their centuries of contemplative practice. The same geometric relationships they had intuited through meditation were now being validated through scientific analysis. The divine blueprint that governed cosmic evolution also guided spiritual development, suggesting that authentic mysticism was essentially mathematical communion with universal truth expressed through the sacred language of ancient wisdom. The discovery revealed that Earth itself was part of the divine mathematical pattern, with human consciousness serving as one expression of universal intelligence. Every culture, every faith, every individual was connected through geometric relationships that transcended cultural boundaries and spoke to something fundamental in the nature of existence. The planet pulsed with golden energy as humanity began to understand its place within the cosmic architecture of divine mathematics. Medical researchers confirmed that the same mathematical patterns governing sacred texts also determined the formation of human life at the cellular level. The divine blueprint that created galaxies and guided spiritual evolution was also present in the miraculous process of human development. Each new life was following mathematical principles encoded in the cosmic pattern, connecting individual existence to universal truth through the language of divine mathematics from the moment of conception. The world's greatest minds had gathered to document and understand the full implications of the discovery. Mathematicians, physicists, theologians, and philosophers worked together to map the divine blueprint that connected sacred wisdom to scientific truth. The mathematical patterns weren't just academic curiosities, they were living connections to something greater than human understanding. Each revelation brought humanity closer to comprehending the infinite intelligence that created and sustained all existence through the universal language of mathematical harmony. The discovery revealed that the mathematical patterns found in sacred texts weren't just metaphors or symbolic representations, they were literal blueprints for cosmic creation itself. The same geometric relationships that brought wisdom to humanity also determined the formation of galaxies, the evolution of stars, and the fundamental structure of spacetime. The divine mind had encoded its infinite intelligence into both spiritual teachings and physical reality through the universal language of mathematics, creating a cosmos where every atom reflected the perfection of divine mathematical harmony.